It wasn't supposed to be a big deal. Just a random evening, nothing out of the ordinary. But it's funny how life can throw a curveball when you least expect it. I was sitting in the dim light of my living room, scrolling through emails, when my phone buzzed on the coffee table. The name on the screen made my heart skip a beat, Elsie. But it wasn't a text from her. It was a message from her friend, Carla, a name I'd never expected to see. The message read, "Meet me outside, Theo. You don't know what's really happening." I stared at it for a long moment. I almost convinced myself it was some sort of mistake. Maybe it was meant for someone else, or maybe Carla had sent it to the wrong number. But deep down, I knew it wasn't an error. It was too specific. I didn't want to overthink it, but I couldn't ignore the fluttering feeling in my stomach. Carla wasn't the type to just send random texts. She wasn't close to me, not like Elsie was. She was distant, more of an acquaintance, really. So why would she be contacting me? I stared at the message again. It didn't make sense. Why would she say something like that? Why, you don't know what's really happening? And why was it addressed directly to me? I was suddenly hyper-aware of every little sound in the house. The hum of the refrigerator, the distant rush of traffic outside. It felt like I was on the edge of some unknown precipice. I debated what to do next. I should probably just ignore it, I told myself. Maybe it was just some strange prank or a misunderstanding. But then, in that strange, uncanny way that things always seem to work, my phone buzzed again. Another message, this time from Elsie. It read, "Can you come upstairs for a second?" I froze. My heart dropped. The timing was too precise, the kind of coincidence that feels impossible. It was like a push, urging me to make a choice, as if I was being herded towards something I couldn't yet see. I stood up, pacing the room, caught in a strange mixture of confusion and anticipation. Why was Carla texting me now? What could she possibly know about anything? And why was Elsie, my wife, suddenly asking me to come upstairs? As my mind raced, a thought came to me, cold and sharp. What if they were somehow connected? What if something was going on, something I hadn't seen? The mere possibility was enough to make me feel a knot tighten in my stomach. I glanced at the door, then back at my phone. I thought about it for another moment, trying to decide what to do. I wasn't sure what I was walking into, but something told me that I had no choice but to find out. It was like standing on the edge of a cliff, knowing that once I took the step, there would be no going back. And that's when I made up my mind. I grabbed my coat and headed for the door. I stepped out into the cold night air, my breath forming little clouds as I walked to the end of the driveway. The streetlights flickered above me, casting eerie shadows that seemed to stretch forever. I kept looking at my phone, expecting another message, but nothing came. Just the quiet of the neighborhood. Then, out of nowhere, I heard a soft voice. "Theo." I turned sharply, my pulse quickening. Standing in the shadow of the old oak tree near the edge of the yard was Carla, her figure barely visible in the dim light. She didn't move, just stood there, looking at me with an unreadable expression. The air felt thick, like something heavy was hanging between us, something unspoken but incredibly important. "You came," she said softly, her voice calm, but I could sense a certain urgency in it. "I wasn't sure you would." "What is this about, Carla?" I asked, the words spilling out before I could stop myself. I didn't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't ready for whatever was about to come. "What's going on?" She took a step forward, her heels clicking on the concrete. "You need to listen to me," she said, her voice low, almost whispering now. "You don't know what's happening inside your house." I blinked. My heart skipped another beat. "What do you mean? What's inside?" She hesitated for a second before answering. "It's not what you think. There are things going on that you don't see. And if you don't act fast, it's going to be too late to fix." I felt my throat tighten. What was she talking about? What was going on that I didn't know? "I don't understand," I said, my voice cracking slightly. I was losing grip on the situation. The pieces weren't fitting together, but something in Carla's voice told me this wasn't just some harmless chat. "What exactly are you saying?" Carla's eyes flickered toward the house before she leaned in closer, her voice barely audible. "You need to confront her," she said, her words cutting through the night air. "And you need to do it now. If you wait, you'll lose everything." I stood there for a long moment, the weight of her words pressing down on me. Everything in my mind screamed that this couldn't be real. It didn't make sense. But as I looked at Carla, her face serious, her eyes intense, I knew deep down that she wasn't lying. It was time to go inside. The path ahead was unclear, but one thing was certain. My life had just changed forever. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, Carla's words echoing in my head like a distant warning. You need to confront her, she had said. If you wait, you'll lose everything. My mind was racing. What was she talking about? Confront who? What was going on inside the house? I glanced back at my front door, its familiar silhouette now feeling distant and foreign. My stomach churned with a mix of confusion and dread. For the first time that evening, I realized how much I was in the dark. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what my wife, Elsie, was up to. I didn't even know if I should trust Carla, but something in her eyes told me she wasn't lying. I turned back to her. Why are you telling me this? What's going on? Why don't you just tell me everything? Carla shifted her weight from one foot to the other, eyes darting back toward the house once more. She seemed nervous, like she wasn't sure if she should continue, but after a long pause, she spoke again. Elsie, she's been different. I know you've noticed, Carla said, her voice lowering. She's not the same. I've seen things you don't know about. My heart skipped. I felt a sudden sharpness in my chest. What are you talking about? I asked, my voice almost trembling. Carla looked down at her shoes, as if weighing her words carefully. You know the way she's been lately, right? Distant, secretive. And there's more. Much more. You don't see it because you trust her. But trust me, Theo, this isn't the woman you married. I felt my blood run cold at her words. What do you mean by that? Carla hesitated again before leaning in closer, her voice barely a whisper. She's been meeting someone. Someone you don't know. And she's been keeping secrets from you. Every word hit me like a punch in the gut. My mind was spinning. Elsie, my wife, had always been the center of my life. She was always open with me. At least, that's what I thought. We never kept secrets. At least, I didn't think we did. The idea of her meeting someone else, behind my back, was too much to process. I shook my head in disbelief. No, that can't be true. You're lying. Carla didn't argue. She didn't try to convince me further. Instead, she stepped back, her eyes tired but resolute. I'm not lying, Theo. You need to face the truth. You need to ask her. For a moment, I felt frozen. I didn't know what to do with the information she'd just dropped on me. Part of me wanted to run back inside, to demand answers from Elsie right then and there. Another part of me wanted to bury my head in the sand, pretend none of this was real. But Carla wasn't done. You'll figure it out, she said quietly. Just don't wait too long. It might be too late to fix things. And with that, she turned and disappeared into the night, leaving me standing in the cold, feeling more lost than I ever had before. I stood there, staring at the darkened windows of my house, wondering what had been happening behind those closed doors. Was it true? Was Elsie seeing someone else? The idea gnawed at me, and I couldn't shake it. I walked back toward the door, each step heavier than the last. My mind raced with 1,000 questions, but one stood out among all the others. What do I do now? As I entered the house, I glanced around, trying to piece things together. Elsie was upstairs. I knew she was there. The house was eerily quiet. I could hear her faintly moving around up there, probably finishing up with something she'd been doing. I felt a strange unease in my chest as I approached the stairs. The message that Carla had left me kept repeating in my mind. Confront her. Was that really what I needed to do? Should I just ask her straight out? Or was that too risky? As I stood at the bottom of the stairs, I hesitated. There was a lump in my throat, and my hands felt clammy. I didn't know if I was ready to hear whatever truth was waiting for me, but I knew one thing. I couldn't stay in the dark any longer. I took a deep breath and climbed the stairs slowly, each step feeling like it took me closer to something I wasn't ready for. At the top of the stairs, I turned toward our bedroom. The door was slightly ajar, and I could hear the faint sound of rustling inside. My heart raced as I approached. I had a choice to make. Go in and ask her what was really going on, or turn away and pretend everything was fine. But I knew I couldn't pretend anymore. I pushed the door open, and there she was, standing in front of the mirror, fixing her hair. Elsie didn't even glance at me as I walked in. Hey, I said, my voice sounding far more fragile than I intended. We need to talk. She didn't answer immediately. She just adjusted her blouse, smoothing it down as if everything were perfectly normal. After a moment, she turned to face me, her eyes meeting mine. And just like that, I saw it. The same distant look I had seen in her eyes earlier that evening. The same look that felt completely out of place. The same look that made my heart drop into my stomach. About what? She asked, her tone too casual, too rehearsed. Her words hung in the air, too casual, too distant, as if she didn't even care about the tension between us. I stared at her, trying to read her face, but her expression was unreadable, almost too perfect. I took a step closer, my heart pounding. About what, Elsie? About this? I gestured toward the distance between us, the space that had felt so small before, but now seemed impossibly vast. About what's been happening between us. Her eyes flickered, just for a moment, and I caught it, the briefest flash of something. Was it guilt? Was it fear? No. She quickly masked it with a smile, smooth as silk. You're being paranoid, Theo, she said, her voice soft and sweet, almost too sweet. Nothing is going on. You're just overthinking everything, like always. I could feel the blood rushing to my ears, the weight of her words pushing me further into a corner. She was lying. I knew she was. But how could I prove it? How could I confront her with something that felt so intangible? I'm not paranoid, I said, my voice shaking slightly. I don't know what's going on, but something isn't right. Carla just told me. She interrupted, her tone turning sharp, more defensive than I'd ever heard. Carla doesn't know anything about us, she snapped. She's just trying to stir things up. Don't listen to her. But the way she said it made me feel even more certain that Carla had hit a nerve. Why else would Elsie react so strongly? I didn't let it go. What's happening, Elsie? You're different. You've been different for months. I've noticed it. Don't pretend like everything is fine. My voice was rising, louder now, the frustration bubbling up like a pressure cooker on the verge of exploding. She took a deep breath, her gaze hardening. I don't know what you want me to say, Theo. I'm just tired of this. Tired of you. I can't keep living like this. My mind reeled. What was she saying? What do you mean, tired of me? I whispered, feeling the floor shift beneath me. I thought we were. We've always been okay, haven't we? She looked at me, and for a split second, I saw something cold behind her eyes. No, Theo. We haven't been okay. Not for a long time. Her words hit me like a slap, but it wasn't the words themselves that stung. It was the finality in her voice. The way she said them, like she was just done, like she had already moved on from everything we had. I stood there, frozen. The air felt thick, suffocating. Everything I thought I knew about our life, about our relationship, seemed to crumble away in an instant. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words wouldn't come. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. It was like time had slowed, the world outside the bedroom completely irrelevant. My pulse pounded in my ears, and all I could hear was the steady beat of my own heart. Finally, she broke the silence, but her voice was distant, almost cold. I don't want to fight anymore, Theo. I just want peace. And right now, that means you need to leave. The words sliced through me. Leave? Leave what? Leave her? I couldn't process it. It didn't make sense. This was my wife, the woman I thought I'd spend my life with. And yet here we were, on the brink of a collapse I never saw coming. I opened my mouth to protest, to beg her to tell me what was really going on, but nothing came out. I couldn't find the words. My chest felt tight, like I was suffocating, and I knew that no matter what I said, nothing would change. Elsie turned away, not even sparing me a glance. Please, she said quietly, almost pleading. Just go. I stood there for a few more moments, my mind spinning, trying to piece everything together. But there was no point. She had already made up her mind. She had already decided, and I was the last to know. I walked out of the room, the heavy weight of her words still pressing on me. The hallway felt longer than it ever had before, the walls closing in on me with each step. I went down the stairs mechanically, my legs moving almost on autopilot, my mind too numb to feel anything except the thud of my heart. I couldn't stay in that house. I couldn't stay with her. Not after everything that had just been said. But as I reached the front door, I stopped. Something was nagging at me, something I couldn't ignore. What did Carla mean when she said, "You don't know what's really happening"? What did she know that I didn't? I turned back toward the stairs, unsure of what I was doing. But one thing was clear, I had to get to the bottom of this. I couldn't just walk away, not without knowing the truth. With trembling hands, I picked up my phone and dialed Carla's number. The phone rang, each second dragging on longer than the last. I felt the tension building, like I was standing at the edge of something I couldn't quite see. What was Carla going to tell me? Did I really want to know the truth, Or would it shatter whatever was left of my sanity? Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Carla picked up. Hello. Her voice was quiet, almost tentative, as though she wasn't sure whether I was the one calling or if she should have stayed silent. Carla, I said, my voice rough. What the hell is going on? What did you mean earlier when you said, you don't know what's really happening? There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could almost hear her weighing whether to speak or not, probably wondering how much she could safely say without crossing a line. Finally, she spoke. You need to calm down, Theo, she said, but I could tell she was trying to keep her voice steady. You're not going to like what I'm about to say, but you need to hear it. I could feel my heart racing again, a pit forming in my stomach. The words I had been dreading were finally coming. Elsie isn't who you think she is, Carla continued, and there was a weight to her words that sent a shiver down my spine. There's a side of her you don't know, a side that's been kept from you for a long time. I took a shaky breath, trying to steady myself. What do you mean? What side? Carla's voice dropped even lower. I didn't want to be the one to tell you this, but it's the truth, Theo. Elsie's been seeing someone else. And not just anyone. It's someone you know. Someone close. My mind went blank for a second. Someone I knew? My thoughts raced, and I immediately began cycling through every person I knew, trying to piece this together. Who could it possibly be? Who was close enough to her for me not to notice? Carla didn't give me time to respond. It's Ian, she said, her words cutting through the silence like a knife. Ian, my best friend. The thought hit me like a freight train. I couldn't process it. Ian? It made no sense. How could this be happening? How could she be seeing Ian behind my back? Ian, I whispered, barely able to say the word. How long? Longer than you think, Carla replied. It started a few months ago, and it's been going on ever since. They've been meeting in secret. You've been oblivious to it, Theo. I don't know how you didn't see it. I felt like the world was spinning around me, the floor beneath my feet shaking. The anger, the betrayal, it all hit me at once, flooding my chest like a wave. Ian, my best friend, the person I trusted with everything. And Elsie, my wife, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone. I don't believe you, I said, my voice cracking. This can't be true. I know it's hard to accept, Carla said gently, but it is. I didn't want to get involved, but you deserve to know, Theo. You need to hear it from someone. Don't just take my word for it. Look closer. They've been hiding it from you. I couldn't think. My mind was a blur of disbelief and anger. I felt my hands shaking, my thoughts spiraling out of control. I'm sorry, Theo, Carla added, her voice softer now. I really am. But you need to confront her. You need to ask her about Ian. You need to know the truth before it's too late. The line went quiet for a moment, and I was left with the silence and the weight of Carla's words pressing down on me. She had just ripped my world apart, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for what came next. I hung up the phone without saying another word. My head was spinning, my heart was racing, and the only thing I could focus on was one question. How could Elsie do this to me? I walked back toward the stairs, my legs heavy as lead, my mind too numb to process what I had just learned. The hallway seemed longer now, the house too quiet, too empty. I needed to talk to Elsie. I needed to ask her, but I didn't know if I was ready for the truth. The door to our bedroom was still slightly ajar, and I could hear the faint sound of her moving inside. My hand hovered over the doorknob, trembling. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. Elsie was sitting on the edge of the bed, her back turned to me. She didn't even flinch when she heard the door creak. For a long moment, I stood there, my heart pounding in my chest. The question burned in my mind, but I didn't know how to ask it. Elsie, I finally said, my voice low, is it true? About Ian? Her body stiffened when I spoke. I could see her fingers tighten around the edge of the bed, her knuckles turning white. She didn't turn around, didn't face me immediately. It felt like hours before she finally spoke. Don't, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Just don't. It was as if she already knew what I was about to ask, and her response came so quickly, so instinctively, that it felt rehearsed. My pulse quickened, and a heavy silence settled between us. Elsie, I said, my voice low, barely above a murmur, I need to know. Is it true? About Ian? She still didn't turn around, but I could hear the change in her breathing, shallow, almost ragged. My heart pounded in my chest as the seconds stretched on, the weight of the question hanging in the air. Finally, she spoke, but when she did, It was almost like she was talking to herself. You wouldn't understand, Theo. You wouldn't even believe me if I told you. The word stung. I wasn't sure if she was talking about Ian or about everything else between us. But the frustration I had been holding back bubbled up. I want to understand, I said, taking a step closer. I need to understand, Elsie. You owe me that much. Just tell me what's going on. She turned then, slowly, and I could see the tears in her eyes. It was the first time that evening I saw any real emotion in her. Raw, vulnerable, like she was struggling with something far deeper than I had ever imagined. You really want to know? She asked, her voice cracking. You want to hear the truth? I nodded, my throat tight. She wiped her eyes, then looked at me with a mixture of sadness and guilt. I've been seeing Ian. Yes, it's true. But you need to know. It's not what you think. I felt like the ground had just fallen out from under me. Then what is it, Elsie? I asked, desperate for answers. What is it, if not what I think? Her gaze dropped to her hands, her fingers trembling. It started a while ago, when you were always busy with work, always distracted. Ian and I, we didn't mean for it to happen, but we found comfort in each other. It was like we were both missing something, and for a moment, it just made sense. I could hardly process her words. Ian? My best friend? The person I trusted most in the world? And now he was the one who had filled the void that I had left? You were missing something? I repeated, my voice a mixture of disbelief and anger. I was right here, Elsie. I was right here, and you still turned to him? She flinched at my words, as if they physically hurt her. Theo, it wasn't like that. It wasn't planned. It just happened. And I know it's wrong. I do. I've been trying to figure out what to do, how to fix this mess I've created, but I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know how to make it right. I was struggling to breathe, my chest tight with every word she said. The person I thought I knew, the woman I had spent my life with, had just shattered before me, piece by piece. And Ian? I asked, my voice cold. Was he part of this plan too? Was he just as guilty? She nodded, unable to meet my eyes. Yes, she whispered. He is. But Theo, please, you have to understand. It wasn't just about him. It was about me, too. I've been lost. I've been trying to find myself again, and in doing that, I lost sight of you. I lost sight of us. I wanted to scream, to yell at her, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, all I could do was stand there, staring at her, feeling like everything I knew had been ripped apart. I didn't know what hurt more, the fact that she'd betrayed me, or that she was asking me to understand why she had done it. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. But it did. And now, I don't know how to fix it. The silence that followed felt suffocating. I couldn't think, couldn't make sense of what she had just confessed. My best friend, my wife, both of them had betrayed me in ways I never thought possible. I don't know what to say, Elsie, I said finally, my voice shaking. I don't know how we can come back from this. Her eyes filled with more tears, and she took a shaky breath. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I can forgive myself. But please, Theo, don't leave me. The pain in her voice was genuine, but it didn't change the fact that everything between us had changed. I wasn't sure if I could ever look at her the same way again. I don't know if I can stay, I whispered, more to myself than to her. The words felt like a weight, heavier than anything I'd ever said before. And in that moment, I realized that the person I thought I knew, the life I thought we had built, had already slipped through my fingers. And I didn't know if there was any way to hold on. I stood there, the weight of her words pressing down on me, suffocating me. The room felt too small, the walls closing in around me, and the only sound was the distant hum of the clock on the wall. Every second felt like an eternity, and I could hardly breathe. Elsie looked at me, her eyes pleading, as though she was waiting for me to say something, anything. But I couldn't. I couldn't think. All I could do was stare at her, the woman I thought I knew, and try to make sense of everything she had just confessed. I don't know what to say to you, I finally whispered. My voice sounded foreign to me, broken. I don't know how to fix this. I don't even know if it's fixable. Her face crumpled, and she reached out, as if to touch me, but I stepped back instinctively, the distance between us feeling more immense than ever before. I could feel the gap growing between us, between everything we had been. I'm sorry, Theo. I truly am. I know I've hurt you, she said, her voice trembling. But I need you to understand. I never wanted it to go this far. I didn't want to lose you. I took a sharp breath, shaking my head. But you did lose me, Elsie. You've already lost me. I can't look at you the same way anymore. I can't even look at myself the same way, knowing what you've done. The words were out before I could stop them, but once they left my mouth, there was no taking them back. I saw the pain in her eyes, and for a moment, I almost regretted saying them. Almost. Don't say that, she pleaded, her voice barely audible. I'm trying, Theo. I'm trying to fix everything. Please, don't give up on me. I shook my head, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. You're asking me not to give up on you, but what about me? What about everything I've given? What about all the trust I've put in you? You've shattered everything we had. She dropped her gaze to the floor, her hands wringing together as if she didn't know what else to do with them. I know I've ruined everything. But can't we try? Can't we find a way to rebuild? We have to try, Theo. I don't want to lose you. But in that moment, I realized something. It wasn't just Elsie who had been lost. I had been lost too. I had been blind to everything happening around me. I had trusted too much, held on too tightly, and now the truth was tearing everything apart. I don't know if I can believe in you anymore. I whispered, the words barely audible. How can I? How can I look at you, knowing everything that's happened? She took a step toward me, her hand reaching out once more. Please, Theo, she said, her voice breaking. Please, don't leave me. I wanted to say something. Anything. To make sense of it, to make it stop. But the reality of the situation hit me like a ton of bricks. I didn't know if I could forgive her. I didn't even know if I wanted to. I stepped back again, away from her touch, and the silence that followed felt more deafening than any words could ever be. I need space, I said, my voice cracking. I need time to think. I don't know what to do anymore. Elsie looked at me, her face a mixture of desperation and guilt, but I didn't know how to comfort her. I didn't know how to comfort myself. I'll be here when you're ready, she said softly, but there was a tremble in her voice. I'll wait for you. I didn't respond. Instead, I turned and walked out of the room, out of the house, feeling the cool air hit me like a wave. The world outside was quiet, too quiet. Everything felt different now. I stood on the porch, trying to steady my breathing, trying to find a sense of clarity. But there was nothing, just emptiness. In that moment, I realized that nothing would ever be the same again. The night felt colder than it should have, the air biting at my skin as I stood there, trying to process everything. I thought about going back inside, confronting Elsie, demanding more answers. But something in me held back, something that whispered that it wouldn't make a difference. I walked down the porch steps, my mind racing in circles. I could barely make sense of my own thoughts. How had everything gone so wrong? 1 minute, I was living a normal life, believing I had everything figured out. The next, I was standing outside my house, questioning the very foundation of my marriage. Then, my phone buzzed in my pocket. The vibration startled me, and I pulled it out instinctively. The name on the screen was one I hadn't expected to see, Ian. I froze. My heart skipped a beat. What did he want? What could he possibly have to say to me right now? With shaky hands, I answered the call. Ian, I said, my voice tight, uncertain. There was a long pause before he spoke, his voice low and almost hesitant. Theo, I didn't think you'd pick up. I clenched my jaw, my grip tightening on the phone. What do you want, Ian? After everything that's happened, why are you calling me? He sighed heavily on the other end of the line, and I could almost feel his discomfort. Look, Theo, I know this is the last thing you want to hear from me, but I need to talk to you. I don't want things to be this way. I don't want you to hate me. My pulse quickened. Hate him? I didn't even know what I felt anymore. Anger? Betrayal? Disbelief? You've already made that decision for me, I snapped. You and Elsie, behind my back, laughing, plotting, whatever the hell you were doing. You knew exactly what you were doing, and you did it anyway. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, Theo, Ian said quickly, his voice tinged with guilt. None of us did. But you have to understand, it's not what you think. It wasn't just me and Elsie, it wasn't. I never wanted to hurt you. The words felt hollow, like an excuse that couldn't possibly make the situation better. Don't tell me what it wasn't, Ian. Tell me what it was. I could feel my anger bubbling over. Was it just some twisted fling? Some temporary thing? Or was there more to it? What the hell were you two doing behind my back? Another heavy sigh came from the other end. It wasn't supposed to be this way, Theo. I swear to God, it wasn't. Elsie and I, we got too close. It was never planned. It just happened, and I don't even know how to explain it. His words cut through me like a blade. You don't know how to explain it? You're not the one who's been lied to. You're not the one left in the dark. You're not the one who's been made a fool. Don't say that. Ian's voice trembled. I never wanted to hurt you. You've been my best friend for years, man. You're like a brother to me. I was wrong. But this isn't just on me. You have to understand, it's not all on me. I ran a hand through my hair, feeling the frustration build inside me. So what? You and Elsie were some kind of perfect match? What was it? I mean, what am I supposed to believe, Ian? The silence stretched between us for what felt like an eternity, and when he spoke again, his voice was quieter, almost defeated. I didn't know how to stop it once it started. I never meant for things to go this far. But I know it's my fault too. I closed my eyes, letting the weight of his words sink in. You're damn right it's your fault. Both of you. And now you want me to believe you? After everything? You want me to just forgive and forget? He hesitated. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to hear it from me. You deserve the truth, even if it doesn't fix anything. I could feel my chest tightening, my emotions swirling like a storm inside me. I don't know if I can ever trust you again, Ian. I don't know if I can even look at you the same way. I get it, he said softly. I don't expect you to. I just needed to tell you, man. I'm sorry for everything. And I'll accept whatever you need to do. If you never want to speak to me again, I'll understand. The words stung, but in some strange way, they also felt like a release. Like a door I wasn't ready to open had finally been cracked open. But the truth had come at a price. I could feel it. How everything I had known was shifting, slipping away from me, piece by piece. I don't know what's going to happen next, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. But I'll figure it out, one way or another. And with that, I ended the call. I stood there in the cold night air, my mind reeling. Ian's apology hadn't been enough to heal the wound, but I had no idea where to go from here. What do you do when your world is shattered? What do you do when you realize that everything you thought you knew was a lie? The silence that followed felt heavier than anything I had experienced before. The weight of Ian's words still lingered in my chest, the rawness of the betrayal gnawing at me, but something inside me shifted. I didn't know how or when, but in that moment, I realized that I couldn't stay frozen in the pain. I couldn't let it define me. I had to make a choice for myself. I stood there in the cold, staring out into the night, the distant sounds of the world continuing on, oblivious to the storm that had raged inside me just moments before. The world didn't stop, and neither could I. I took a deep breath, the air cold in my lungs, and I made a decision. I wouldn't let this break me. I wouldn't let their mistakes control my future. It was time to take my life back. With a newfound resolve, I turned toward the house. The door still hung open, the light from the living room spilling out into the dark night, beckoning me inside. I walked back in, my steps steady, my mind clearer than it had been in hours. Elsie was sitting on the couch, her head in her hands, tears staining her face. She looked up as I entered, her eyes red, but there was something different about her now. It wasn't the same desperate pleading I had seen before. It was a quiet, fragile acceptance. Theo, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you. I stood still for a moment, the words hanging in the air. But then, I walked over and sat beside her. I didn't know what the future held for us, but I knew that I wasn't ready to give up yet. We have a lot to work through, I said quietly, but I'm not ready to walk away just yet. We both made mistakes, but we can fix this, if we're both willing to try. Elsie looked at me, her eyes searching mine for any hint of the man she once knew. I could see the hope in her eyes, mixed with the fear that I might still walk out. But this time, it was different. I wasn't running away. I'm willing to try, she whispered. I want to make things right. I nodded. It wouldn't be easy. Nothing about this would be. But for the first time, I felt a flicker of hope. We didn't have to have all the answers right now. We just had to be willing to take the first step together. We sat in silence for a long while, the weight of everything slowly lifting as the night wore on. It wasn't a happy ending. There were still so many things to work through, so many truths to confront. But for the first time, I believed that maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. And that was enough for now.